Hi there, PCL fans, and welcome to our Tier 4 video, Finding the Right Balance. This is a follow-up to our last video where we did Tier 5 and went through a lot of the Pokemon there and helping people kind of figure out what's good, what's maybe not good, and what you're kind of looking for in the tier. So now we're going to go through Tier 4, which to a lot of people is kind of a weird tier, and I know a lot of people think it's the worst tier, like it's really just hard to pick from and it's awkward in between like Tier 3 and Tier 5 because there's still good stuff in Tier 5, but Tier 3 is kind of where you get like the bulk of your team. But after I've made this video and went through all these, all the Pokemon in Tier 4, I actually have changed my mind, and Tier 4 is now one of my favorites, and I cannot wait to try out some of these Pokemon in draft, to be honest. But let's kind of go through. So first we're just going to do a quick little overview. This here is Tier 4 as of Season 2. Again, this changes every season. We're going to drop a few, add a few, move things around a little bit. Not a lot. Not like after Season 1 where we changed a lot, because things kind of settled. But this is kind of what we're looking at for Season 2, and a lot of these will stay here. So you look through and there's just a lot of really good Pokemon. There's some that are kind of awkward, but I mean, overall, like, you look at it, you kind of think, this seems weird, I don't know if I want any of these, but when you really look deep into these Pokemon, you'll find that there are some really, really strong choices, and I will go through my top ones here in a second. But first, what are we doing here? What are we looking at in Tier 4? Like, what should your plan be? So at this point in your draft, most of your team should be drafted. You shouldn't be taking Tier 4 as one of your, like, first 3 or even 4 picks, I think. But like I said at the intro, this is about finding balance, which is kind of similar to what we were looking at in Tier 5. But Tier 5 is kind of like your very last, like, shoot, what did I miss? What do I need on my team? Do I need a Stealth Rock setter? Do I need a Rapid Spinner or a Defogger? Like, what does my team need? On this, you still have a little bit more flexibility than Tier 5, which is why I think it's obviously a little better. So you can look at a couple things that you're missing and try to be like, what's going to be the best fit for my team for balancing things out? I mean, you just want to fill in the holes in your team, whatever you're missing. Like, again, if it's a Stealth Rocker or a Rapid Spinner or a Sweeper, like, you can find all of those in Tier 4. So, unlike last time in the Tier 5, I went through all the different, like, types. Like, you could get, like, what has Stealth Rocks in this tier? What has Rapid Spins? I'm not going to do that for the rest of the tiers. Now that I've gone through it, everyone should kind of know what they're looking for in their draft. So, we're just going to go through my top picks. And this time we are going to do my top 15. I tried to do a top 10 and there were just too many good things. I ended up cutting a bunch that I just really didn't want to cut. So I changed it and decided, you know what, I'm going to do top 15. And I think I'm going to do top 15 for the rest of the tiers just because there's so many good ones and I want to touch on so many of them in my videos because I think all of them deserve to be talked about. So let's start with number 15. We have Linoone, one of my favorite Gen 3s, Little Badger. So what makes Linoone good? You look at those stats and you're like, it's fast, but it doesn't hit hard, its defense is meh. Like, what's the point of Linoone? So Linoone gets Belly Drum, which is a move that a lot of Pokemon don't get. It's pretty rare to see, but it does it so well. That Belly Drum plus 100 speed is going to make it hit very hard. And you have that with extreme speed, which is stab on Linoone. So that extreme speed Belly Drum is going to hit so much. Like, it's just insane. And it has decent coverage outside of that. When you look at its coverage, it gets Seed Bomb, Gunk Shot, Play Rough, and Stomping Tantrum. You can bring a lot of different moves to surprise your opponent and bring what you need. Now, I put him only at number 15 because down here at the bottom I'll put, like, what maybe isn't so good, but it's really limited to Belly Drum sets. It can't do a lot outside of that. So you have to be aware of that when you're drafting, you know? Just make sure that this Belly Drum is what you need, kind of what you want, and be aware that when you bring it, your opponent knows exactly what you're doing. But I mean, even then, it's still hard to deal with, and I think Linoone easily deserves a spot as one of the best Tier 4s. Number 14 is Bronzong. Now, Bronzong was Tier 3, Season 1. Didn't perform quite as well there, we didn't think, so we moved him down to Tier 4, where I think he fits actually really well. He is super, super bulky. 116 defense and special defense is insane. He's got both of those plus his really, really good abilities. His abilities are insane. You either get Levitate, that gets rid of his ground weakness, or you get Heat Proof, which gets rid of his fire weakness. So you can play around what your opponent has. If they have a really strong ground type or Earthquake user, bring Levitate. If they have a really, really good fire type, like Charizard X, bring Heat Proof, and he's going to be able to wall a lot of their team. That's the beautiful thing about Bronzong in draft. You get to pick which of those abilities to bring, and when it's going to suit you the best. I just think that's insanely strong. His typing, I think, is really good. Psychic and Steel. He does Toxic Stall very well. He's got Stealth Rocks, and he's got Trick Room. He has so much potential, and if your team's looking for that bulk, excellent, excellent Tier 4 pick, I think. So his only real downside to me is he does lack reliable coverage. He's gonna rely on leftovers. So he can get worn down very easily if your opponent is prepped for it. But again, your opponent has to prep for it correctly, because that ability is just going to change so much of what's actually going to be able to hit Bronzong. So everyone just needs to keep that in mind with Bronzong, his just insane abilities. But yeah, lack of recovery keeps him up at number 14. I was going to have him higher, but I think that's kind of why you move down to Tier 4. He's not as reliable as other bulky mons, but still a great pick. Vaporeon hits number 13. So Vaporeon is a really nice Pokemon. I know a lot of people like it. Still better than Flareon, no doubt. It's an excellent Wish cleric. I mean, just having Wish and being able to pass that with the bulk that it has is really, really strong. I think its pure water typing is what really sets it apart from a lot of other bulky waters too, besides like Suicune, which is a lot higher up. Because, I mean, it just gives it so much less that can actually hit it super effectively, which is good. It has Water Absorb or Hydration if you're running Rain. Great abilities. It can Haze. It's got Ice Beam and Shadow Ball, actually, for coverage, which is decent. But it does lack a lot of other coverage, which is why I didn't put it as high. It has 110 special attacks. So this thing doesn't just tank. It can hit back pretty hard. But that lack of coverage makes it just a little weaker. It can't do much outside of what normal water types can do. So a little less on there. And as far as its bulk is great, and it's definitely going to be more of a special wall, though. You look at that defense, and it's not going to be able to take a lot of defensive hits. So you just have to be careful. Make sure that you pair Vaporeon with something that can take your defensive hits as well. But otherwise, I mean, it's great. If you need a cleric on your team, Vaporeon is a really good pick. Number 12, Scrafty. This is one that I took last season in Season 1, and I think he is really great and definitely deserves a spot on this list. He's super bulky. 115 defense, 115 special defense. That's almost as bulky as Bronzong. And, I mean, his typing is great. Fighting and Dark. He's weak to Flying and Fairy. So you just got to watch out for those two moves, but outside of that, he's going to tank a lot of hits. He gets Dragon Dance, which is really nice setup potential. His speed's a little low, but, I mean, after a Dragon Dance, he can outspeed quite a bit. He gets Knockoff Stab. Knockoff Stab is always a great thing to throw on your team, and his coverage is really, really good. I mean, he gets all the elemental punches, so you can throw on a lot of things there. Iron Head and Poison Jab, so you can hit fairies back that are switching in with that Poison Jab. That's going to do a lot. So, I mean, Scrafty is great. He's a good Assault Vest user if you want one of those. With that 115 special defense and 90 attack, he's going to hit pretty hard, and he's going to tank a lot of hits. I put him only at number 12 because he does lack priority. I really wish he got Mach Punch or Sucker Punch. I think those would be great for him. But sadly, he lacks that, so he can't hit priority. And he also lacks Earthquake, which I think is a little telling. It just lowers his coverage a little. He still has great coverage, but I think if he had Earthquake, it would help him a lot. But otherwise, Scrafty is a great bulky attacker if you need it. A great, great, great Assault Vest user. Highly recommend picking him up. I think he did get picked up in at least one of our leagues this season, so that's exciting. And I think he actually did get used. I love Scrafty. Scrafty is good. Number 11, we're going with Whimsicott. Whimsicott is a very popular one. It's a really good grass type if you didn't get one early. Grass types are kind of a weird one where it's like you either take one really early or you take one really late. There's not much in between. So Whimsicott's kind of a later pickup if you didn't get one of the top 3. I'd say there's probably 4 really big grass types with Mega Venusaur, Tangrowth, Serperior, and Bulu. Those are probably the top 4. If you didn't get one of those, you're going to be picking from lower, but that's fine, because there's some good stuff. Whimsicott being one of them. Its typing, I think, is insane. I think Grass Fairy is a really strong typing. Its stats obviously don't look that great, but it gets Prankster. Prankster is just so strong. Getting to hit Tailwind, or Encore, or Memento, or Stun Spore, or Leech Seed for priority is really, really good. It can also run Infiltrator, so if you're running up against like a Mimikyu team, you can just... Or not Mimikyu, but anything with Substitute. I don't think Infiltrator goes through Mimikyu. But Substitute. Hitting through those Substitutes can be really, really important. It gets Defog, and it gets U-Turn. So it's a really good pivot. It's really good utility. It gets Moonblast, Giga Drain, and those are pretty decent moves to be hitting with, even though you're not hitting that hard. Giga Drain gives it some recovery, and Moonblast can hit quite a few things. Its only downside, really, I think, is it is very passive. If you're running Whimsicott, this is not an offensive mon. This is something to come in and bring utility to your team, which is not really a bad thing. It just limits its options, and when people see it, you know what to expect, but it's still going to be really, really hard to deal with. Really hard. I like Whimsicott a lot, so if you need a bulky grass type to fill in a core, or a bulky fairy to fill in a core, I'd take Whimsicott. I think its utility makes it really good. Alright, now we'll get to my top 10. Torkoal. I know I'm going to get a lot of flack for this one, but I do know that there are some people that do agree with me. Torkoal is really, really good. The Drought ability has pushed Torkoal to really great levels of usage. I think that really helped him a lot. He's got really strong defense. 140 defense is a great physical tank. He's pure fire type, which, just like Vaporeon, that kind of helps when you're a bulky mon. You don't have as many weaknesses as a lot of dual types. So I think that's really, really good. He gets Rapid Spin and Stealth Rock. That's, I think, what really... Like, the Drought pushed him up to where he needed to be, but I mean, Rapid Spin and Stealth Rock together still are what make him great, what make him really usable. You can spin away rocks, but set up your own. He also has Will-O-Wisp, which, God, Will-O-Wisp is just one of my favorite moves. Yeah, it misses sometimes, they lowered the accuracy, but it's still such a strong move to just cripple the opponent's team when they're switching stuff in. He just has so much going for him with utility, and he also is not that terrible offensively. 85 attack, special attack, it's not great, but it's not the worst. He can still hit. He gets Explosion. I mean, come on, who doesn't want to run an exploding turtle? I think Torkoal is great, and a lot of people don't give him enough credit. I do think somebody picked him up. They might have, or at least they were talking about picking him up. I don't know if they actually did, but he's really, really great. I highly recommend somebody pick him up and try him because he's a pretty strong Pokemon. Number 9, we are going with Braviary. Now we're getting into some of the offensive mons. So Braviary, look at those stats. That thing is a monster. 123 attack with 100 hit points. That's pretty bulky. Decent speed tier. 80 speed is pretty normal, I think, for anything that's pretty offensive. Like Mamoswine is 80. It's really good. Its abilities, though, Sheer Force and Defiant. What great abilities. Like, this thing's going to hit hard, and you're going to have to really prep for it. I think the best set, a lot of people run Bulk Up if you're expecting them to switch out. So you can Bulk Up. You can run Roost on it, U-Turn. You can use it as a defogger. It's also, I mean, with the 80 speed, it's a great Scarfer. It's going to hit really hard with stuff like Brave Bird, you know? This thing is nothing to sleep on, in my opinion. It's just a really great bulky attacker. The typing is really good. Flying type, avoiding those earthquakes, I think is really strong. So highly... I don't think anybody actually took Braviary when I was looking through, though, and that's kind of disappointing. I think Braviary is really strong, and people should look into him. Really good, making it barely into my top 10. Druddigon. Druddigon was what I had to look a little more into before I decided, do I really want this, you know, on my top 15. But after looking closer, I was like, yeah, no, this thing is really good. And I actually decided to put him higher than I originally was. So Druddigon's making it to number 8. Mold Breaker, Rough Skin, Sheer Force. That's what pushed him over the edge for me. Those 3 abilities, like, you can bring any of those, and they're going to be great if you're running a really bulky set. Rough Skin, I mean, that's going to do a lot of chip damage when you need it. And he does get Stealth Rock with that. So, again, a really strong Stealth Rock setter. Sheer Force for when you want to utilize that 120 attack and just have a bulky offensive mon, or a Trick Room attacking mon. Like, that Sheer Force is really great. And then Mold Breaker, like, when you need to hit through abilities, is really pretty good. He does get Earthquake, and I think that's what makes the Mold Breaker so great. His coverage, too. Gunk Shot, Fire Punch, Sucker Punch for priority, Quake, Superpower, and Power Up Punch. Like, he can do a lot. He can hit through a lot. The Power Up Punch gives him a little bit of setup that can be really strong. It's just really, really good. And that Gunk Shot, you can hit fairies that are switching in on him. That's super, super good. I do think somebody picked him up, so I'm excited to see him in battle in a few, I hope. Just super strong. After looking at this, he's like one of the mons I really, really want to draft now. I've never thought about him before. I never thought, oh yeah, Druddigon, I want to get that. It's going to be great on my team. But after looking through him, like really, really looking through all his sets and stuff, I love him now, and I want to try him. So look out. I'm going to try and draft him next season. Just you watch. Number 7, we have Mismagius. Mismagius is one of the few Gen 4s that I do really like. And I mean, as far as special attack mons, I think it's the best, one of the best in Tier 4 easily. Levitate is just such a good ability. Sorry, Gengar, but Mismagius got to keep Levitate. Nasty Plot is great for sweeping. The coverage, to me, the coverage is what puts Mismagius on another level above the other 2 special sweepers I was kind of thinking for my top 15, which is Delphox and Houndoom, which are still really good, and are still perfectly viable in draft, but you get Energy Ball, Thunderbolt, Mystical Fire, and Power Gem. Like, holy crap, those are such good coverage moves that you wouldn't even, like, expect sometimes. Like, I didn't expect Power Gem. I would never think Mismagius could run that, and that would surprise me. And then getting Will-O-Wisp and Taunt just gives it that utility it can use. 105 speed is pretty decent. 105 special defense. It's going to take some hits. I just think this thing is really strong. It's a great choice user. Life Orb if you need to switch up the coverage on the fly. Mismagius is really strong. And I do think it gets drafted in both leagues, and it got drafted last season. So it definitely, people realize Mismagius is good. I don't think I need to really tell you it's really strong. And I mean, Ghost typing is really strong when you're trying to protect from like Rapid Spin users. It's just really good. Love Mismagius. Good Pokemon. Number 6, Hitmonlee. Hitmonlee I wasn't even considering until I had a talk with somebody on the Discord that was telling me that I should look into him. So I did. I went back and I looked at him a little harder. Looked at his coverage and abilities. And I agree now. Holy crap. Hitmonlee. What a great offensive mon. He hits like a truck. I mean, you've got Reckless. It's such a good ability. Unburden can also be used for the Tapus, which, you know, plenty of people pick up. He gets Knockoff. That's such a good thing to be able to run. He's got Mach Punch, Bullet Punch, and Sucker Punch priority. I didn't realize that. He got so many punches. So that's what really, I was like, holy crap, this thing not only has 120 attack, but he got priority. Like, that's so good. He also gets Rapid Spin. And his coverage includes Stone Edge, Earthquake, Poison Jab, and Blaze Kick. Like, you've got just about perfect coverage there. You're just lacking some ice, but dang, like, this guy has great coverage, hits really hard, 120 attack, 87 speed. It's not even that slow. It's faster than Braviary. If you're running a Scarf on Hitmonlee, he's gonna do some damage, and then you can run him Banded and run some of these priorities. Like, God, no, Hitmonlee is great, and I had him a little higher up, but I had to bring him down. He's so great. Number 6, definitely a good spot for Hitmonlee. I think the person I was talking to, I think, did draft him, and I don't know if the other league drafted him, but if somebody needs some offensive power, Hitmonlee is pretty great. Heliolisk. Okay, so this one, after I saw all its stuff, I put it really high up. I think Heliolisk is great. It's one that I am very interested in drafting very soon. Hopefully next season. I want to try him out. I actually did try him out against some like mock team battling with people, and I loved using him. I think he's so great. Dry Skin is a great ability. He's gonna force water types out which is really, really nice. His coverage includes Grass Knot, which you don't always need, but I mean, if you're running up against someone who's got Swampert or Seismitoad, the Grass Knot is going to let him hit them. Surf, I think, is really good. Dragon Pulse and Focus Blast, all really strong, and whatever hidden power you need. He's got Volt Switch and U-Turn, so you can bring whichever one you really need. The Hyper Voice gets Stab because he's normal type, so that's also really strong. Like, this thing hits hard. 109 special attack, it's higher than Mismagius, and 109 speed, faster than Mismagius. Like, this thing hits hard. This thing is fast. It's a great choice user. It's a great Life Orb user if you don't need the extra speed. Like, this is a Pokemon that I think people might sleep on because they might not realize just how powerful it can be, but this thing is good. Really good. And like I said, I know somebody took it in our Origins League. I didn't look at Generations. Hopefully someone took it. I'm sure they did. It's a great Pokemon, and I think people do realize that, but maybe they don't realize just how good. It's really good. Like I said, this is one of my favorite tier 4s now, and I want it. I want to draft it really bad. I'm excited to use it. Eelektross. This is the one that I drafted this season. Charging your lasers. So he gets Levitate, which gives him 0 weaknesses. That's, I think, one of the main reasons we moved him up. He was tier 5, I believe, last season, and he's just way too good for tier 5. I mean, I put him at number 4 in our tier 4. It's like, I think he's that good. He's a slow Volt Switch user, which is really, really nice. Gets Knockoff. Again, great move. His coverage, though, oh my gosh, the coverage on Eelektross is insane, and he can run mixed sets, which is great. He gets Giga Drain to help recover, Flamethrower, Dragon Pulse, Flash Cannon, Power Up Punch, and all the elemental punches except Ice. That's the only thing Eelektross is lacking. He can't hit with Ice, but you've got Hidden Power. Ice, he has 105 special attack. It's going to be good enough if you need it. Eelektross is super great. He got drafted in both leagues, which he should. He's great. He's really, really, really strong. I'm so glad I drafted him. I don't think I have had a chance to use him yet, but running a team with Coco, I really like having him because of the Levitate. It's really nice. Super, super great Pokemon. I don't even know what else to say. He's just... the coverage is just too insane to not put him up high. Miltank. This is another one that someone was like, oh my gosh, Miltank. Miltank is so great in tier 4. We moved it up from tier 5, and again, just like Eelektross, it's still really good in tier 4. The bulk is insane, and I didn't even know this until looking up its information for this video. It has 100 speed. I don't even understand how Miltank has 100 speed, but it does. So it's not only bulky, but it can outspeed a lot. It's got Stealth Rock and Recovery with Milk Drink. That's super strong. All 3 of its abilities are really great. Sap Sipper, Thick Fat, and Scrappy, so you can take hits from whatever you need to, make it a better tank. The utility is so good. Thunder Wave, Heal Bell, and you can Toxic Stall with Milk Drink. Like, it's one of the best Toxic Stallers, I think, in the tier, for sure. And it has setup potential with Curse. I think that puts it above a couple of the other tanks. Being able to run a good Curse set is really strong, I think, and it'll throw your opponent off. I really like Miltank. And number 3, I think it definitely deserves the spot in that. I do think, actually, it moved up in the Smogon tiers anyways. So I'm really glad we moved it up from tier 5. I think it was way too good there, but even in tier 4, it's strong, and it really shows it. This Pokemon is great, and hard to deal with. Vileplume. So I talk a lot about Vileplume in like the Discord. This thing is good. It's better than people give it credit for. And as a late grass pick, it's just about the best you can do. Can fill up your cores late. The Moonlight Recovery. Oh my gosh. Like, it doesn't have to rely on Synthesis all the time. It can do Moonlight, which I think is really good. Giga Drain, Sludge Bomb, Moonblast. Like, there's your coverage. Just watch out for Steel types. It gets Strength Sap, though. Strength Sap, I think, is really, really good, and people don't run enough. I think it's a really fun move. It's also got Leech Seed, Toxic, Sleep Powder, Utility. It has Effect Spore, which is really strong, and people don't give it enough credit for that, I don't think. And I mean, the 110 special attack, this thing's gonna hit hard, and still, like, with the rest of its stats, I mean, it's gonna take hits. Vileplume is really good, really, really good. I really think people sleep on it, and I mean, last season, I forget who had it, but Vileplume actually ended up doing really, really well. And I was surprised how late it did get. I think it got picked in one of the leagues as an FA, like, later on. Nobody picked it up earlier, and I mean, it's just so good. I think it easily deserves number 2. Some people might argue with me on that, but as far as tier 4, Vileplume's always one of the ones I'm looking at. I picked up Breloom earlier, which is a tier 2, so I didn't really need the grass typing, but if I didn't get Breloom, like, Vileplume would have been up there on my list to grab. Vileplume's very, very strong. And number 1, Comfey. This might come as a surprise to some people, but I think Comfey is very OP in tier 4. It's bulky, it's fast, and it has that awful ability triage. Priority healing, oh my goodness. It's got Taunt, Leech Seed, Heal Bell, Tailwind. It's insane utility. And on top of it being a, like, great utility mon, look at the special attack. 82 is not bad, and it gets Calm Mind. Like, you just slap Calm Mind on there, and you can just start rolling through teams as a late game cleaner. Like, and being just fairy typing, again, like, it's not weak to a lot. It's just Steel and Poison. That's it. That's all you're going to really hit it with super effectively, and with its bulk, you're going to need a lot of power to get through it. I just think, I mean, looking through all of them, I just couldn't not put Comfey at number 1. It's not one of my personal favorite Pokemon, but just looking at everything it gets and its stat distribution as a tier 4, Comfey is the best. The ruler of tier 4. And I do know one of the leagues didn't draft it, which is a shame, and maybe after this video somebody will. As they should, if they really need a good bulky fairy that has a lot of utility. Comfey is easily one of the best. I don't know if I'd move it to tier 3. I've kind of been thinking about it since making the video. I don't think it'd ever get picked in tier 3 though. I think it's a little outclassed there, but as a tier 4, I think it's the best and should be the number 1 pick. So that's it for my top 15. These are some of the mons that I was still considering, and I had to cut near the end of my making it just to make it a top 15. But all these ones that I've got down here are also really, really good. If you picked up any of these, you're probably doing fine. They're all really strong. Some of the notable ones, I know Gigalith right now has one of the highest kills in one of the leagues. He's getting slept on, I think. People just think, oh, it's just a stupid rock type, like, I'll be fine. The Sandstorm boosts his special defense, guys. And his attack is insane. I think he's got somewhere up near, like, 120 attack, or maybe even higher. Like, a Stone Edge stab off of that kind of attack is going to kill things very easily. We've got Delphox. Delphox and Houndoom, I think, get picked in both leagues. Great special attackers. Venusaur is a great tank, just like Vileplume. I think Vileplume's got the edge on it a little bit in tier 4, but Venusaur is also really good. Ditto is one that always ends up doing pretty well because people don't prep for it properly. Ditto is great, but if you prep for it, it's pretty easy to take down. Sneasel, I know somebody wanted me to put in our top 15, but I just couldn't. It was close. It was. I was looking at it pretty hard, but I just think it's outclassed by some mons with better priority, like Hitmonlee. It's just not quite as great. And then Verizon, one of the Musketeers. Great Musketeer. Good. Just really strong. So all of these, though, if you picked up any of these, I think they're pretty great. I did want to give an update. So I've been, after going through tier 4, I probably didn't go through tier 5 as well as I should have. There was some mistakes made, and I probably did go too heavy on the rock types like I had said I probably would. I probably didn't look through it. I just didn't look through it hard enough, so I added a few Pokemon to what I would now call my top 10 tier 5s. I added Kecleon somebody mentioned that I missed that one, and I totally did. I didn't even notice it in Tier 5, so I didn't even look at it. Like, Tier 5 is just so big, it's hard to see everything, but I agree with Kecleon. It's a mini Greninja. It's got Protean, it's got good coverage, it's got decent offensive stats. Kecleon's probably a pretty strong Tier 5. So I moved that one up to number 6. I had a Stoutland. I did add Archeops. We were talking about that one. As far as rock types, that's probably the best one. Really good offensive abilities. And I added Xatu. Xatu we moved down from Tier 4 last season. I'm not sure anyone really noticed that, but we moved it down to Tier 5. I mean, it wasn't doing much in Tier 4, which I agree with, but in Tier 5, I think it's very strong. I think the Magic Guard does add a lot to its viability, and I think just being a flying type with Defog is good, very strong, so I wanted to include it in my top 10. But otherwise, I think things pretty much stayed the same. Still got Oricorio, Stoutland, Skuntank, Claydol, Liepard, Weezing, and Mesprit I would still put as my really top mons. But I did go through and want to update just slightly. Just because I went through it a little too fast probably and didn't really thoroughly go through it, but I'm going to fix that for all my other videos. I'm going to be really looking hard and really paying attention to everything that's in the tier before I make my picks. So that's it for this video. Next time we'll do Tier 3, make or break your team. Tier 3 is our biggest tier, so get ready for a pretty awesome, pretty big video, I think. Hope you guys enjoyed it, and I will see you guys next time.